Welcome to the world of 4D Madness, a series of fourth-dimensional movie reviews. I am Dr. Schwarzenberg, and our job is to review every 4D film that has become part of our history. And 4D is just a fourth-dimensional type that people would experience, whether it's a movie or a ride. And now that 4D is becoming a thing of the past, we think it's the best time to go ahead and review every one of them that has been put down in history. And now, I'm gonna let Triple B review one of those 4D films that we all know.
What's up, peeps? This is Byron again, and welcome back to another episode of 4D Madness. And today, I'm gonna be doing another 4D movie review that used to be a staple to the Universal Studios theme parks. And it is also controversial for both the fans and the haters, even the people who are not fans or haters of Shrek. And that is, you guessed it, Shrek 4D, aka The Ghost of Lord Farquaad. Now, the plot basically takes place between the events of Shrek and Shrek 2. And it's basically where the curtains open up to the movie. This little fairy that kind of looks like a Tinkerbell knockoff just comes in and opens the curtain, suddenly gets eaten alive by a frog, and the fairy's magic makes the frog go all the way towards the tree. And we get Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey trying to find a way to get to the hotel for their honeymoon. But Shrek had somehow found a shortcut that basically takes you to the dark forest. And the next thing you know, Thelonious shows up and kidnaps Fiona as Lord Farquaad's request. So Shrek and Donkey are off the chase to rescue Fiona through the dark forest filled with mishaps, like crashing through Gingy's house until reaching to the dead end, where both Shrek and Donkey were jumped right out of their seats, including the white horses that later transformed into the three blind mice that were actually white horses this whole time. And then Shrek and Donkey continue this adventure alone, walking through the cemetery trying to find Fiona, until they come across encountering Lord Farquaad's ghost, who was behind this whole situation of Fiona being kidnapped, especially since he tried to marry her in the first movie until the dragon ate him. And Donkey said the same thing of what the fans thought, saying, "I know I saw you die in the first movie." What's even more insane is that Lord Farquaad's ghost possesses the dragon statue to kill Shrek and Donkey, and they were literally chasing them throughout the cemetery until the dragon that they know came to rescue them. And they were still off the chase with the statue dragon blasting fire at another dragon until the dragon statue lost its wings through the hole and suddenly dies in the water, leading Shrek, Donkey, and the dragon to continue to go find Fiona. In the next scene, we see Lord Farquaad's ghost having Fiona on a stream where he and Thelonious are about to execute her. But before she would get put to death, she suddenly gets her hands out of the rope and starts punching Thelonious in a hilarious way, and then punching him into the water, which I think is probably a hilarious scene. And then Shrek and Donkey finally found Fiona on the deck that's basically tied within another log throughout the stream. And when they came to get her, they suddenly fell through a waterfall. But the funny thing is, they were caught by Thelonious, who was actually holding onto the branch at the waterfall, but couldn't hold it any longer, and they continued to fall once the branch broke. It wasn't very long when the dragon finally rescued all four of them, and the next thing you know, they had the dragon spit fire at Lord Farquaad's ghost, leading to his sudden death. In the end, the dragon takes Shrek, Donkey, and Fiona to the hotel for Shrek and Fiona's honeymoon. They thank Donkey for helping her getting rescued. Donkey and the dragon leave. Shrek and Fiona have this romantic moment while everybody was just looking at them, preparing for their honeymoon. And when they begin their honeymoon, Shrek shoots the fairy with a cap that he was opening from the wine bottle and leads her crashing all the way to some sort of machine. So yeah, that's basically the plot of the movie. Okay. I'll have to admit that I don't have any mixed feelings of this movie at all, because I was actually a Shrek fan, and I have been since I was a kid. And this short film was actually my taste. Like, I remember when I came across it as Shrek 3D, because I remember when my cousins had it on DVD, and we used to have it on DVD. And yes, it did come with the 3D glasses. But the thing is, when we used to watch it on DVD, I came across it in 2D, and it was at my cousin's house when they were watching it. I mean, not in 3D though. But what I didn't know is that it had a 4D attraction. Like, I didn't know that until I started learning more about 4D. But whenever I would watch it in 3D, the 3D graphics used to amaze me so much. Like, I was really surprised by the 3D graphics that it had. And the graphics themselves came in different colors. both red and cyan. But in the 4D attraction, as you might all know, they just don't come into those colors. And here's some fun facts. When Shrek 4D first opened at all 3 existing Universal theme parks in 2003, including Florida, Hollywood, and Japan, there was only a 4D attraction itself. It wasn't until later that year when DreamWorks went ahead and released the movie on DVD, but in 3D. And I'll be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, I had never experienced the 4D version in person. I don't know, it's really sad as a Shrek fan, but the thing is, I never went to Universal Studios as a kid. But I mean, I did when I was 18, going on to 19. But when we went to Universal Studios Florida at that time, I was not really too interested in 4D movies or rides. And I remember very well when we walked past by Shrek 4D when we were heading down to the Universal Studios store. I was telling my mom's boyfriend, like, hey, since there's the 3D version of Shrek 4D on DVD and there's in Miss Park, like, do you think it's just necessary to check out the 4D version other than the 3D movie at home? I mean, what's the point of the 4D attraction comparing to a 3D movie that's been released for at-home releases, where you can actually watch it at home instead of going all the way to Universal Studios or to any Universal Studios park to watch that movie in 4D? And he was like, oh yeah, it is. I mean, everybody does those different things here and there, but it's just whatever. We make choices. Also, this is to the fact that I used to do when I was a kid by going ahead and experiencing 4D films. Well, just mainly some of them, but like when we went to Disney World in 2008. But like, let me tell you, if I ever went to Universal Orlando in that year, like the same year as I first visited Disney World, I would have wanted to see Shrek 4D in person. And I would have had an actual feeling of it from the in-person experience. In the 4D version, they actually have a pre-show queue as you enter the attraction. Like in the line queue, they play clips of the first Shrek film. And when you get inside the dungeon, you get a pair of the ogre vision glasses. They're actually the green polarized glasses. And you wait until the pre-show begins, which is basically inside this torture chamber. And we see Gingy, the 3 little pigs, and Pinocchio being trapped in there, plus the magic mirror being in the dungeon as well. And trust me, I've seen the POVs of it before. As I've seen clips and photos of the pre-show room with the 3 little pigs and Pinocchio being in there, I'm like, how did they get trapped into that dungeon? Did Thelonious kidnap them and put them in those barriers or something? I don't know, that's what I bet. I mean, that's probably for my guess. And while everyone is in the dungeon, the magic mirror tells everyone the story about how Shrek and Fiona met. And they suddenly get interrupted by Lord Farquaad's ghost, who was, again, behind all this mishap. And he tells everyone his plans about killing Fiona, and he urges Thelonious to find Fiona and kidnap her. And then the ghost of Lord Farquaad tells the magic mirror to let everyone know about the safety guidelines and how to get into the theater properly and all that. Like, it's just a crazy beginning, you know? But in the main show, like, as you enter the theater, like, I've already talked about the plot of it, but let me talk about the special effects that they have in the show. They've got a bunch. Like, the special effects lighting, like, I think probably the lighting stroke. Probably the lighting stroke. Probably the lighting stroke. Probably the lighting stroke. Maybe the wind, I don't know. The jarring seats where they move along with some of the scenes, like in a couple of chase scenes. Blood poking, light ticklers, water mist, some additional lighting that they did for the spiders and the fireballs. And it's really interesting to note because I've seen the POVs of Shrek 4D and they would amaze me a bunch. Especially recently, you know, since Shrek 4D at Universal Orlando is now gone for good. And what's interesting is that at Universal Studios Florida and Hollywood, they had the black seats that look very similar to the ones that Cinemark's iWorks would use, but their version is red. And I'm not gonna lie, but as I've seen the photos of the Shrek 4D theater regarding its interior, there were complaints about it looking all weird and not really that interesting to some people, like the buildings themselves. Mainly the one in Hollywood, but the one in Florida was just more tolerant. And how much they've aged over time, you know, since Shrek 4D is not as relevant as it used to be when it first opened. And guess what's really insane about the Florida version? Well, used to be this large theater from what I've heard, until they divided it into 2 theaters showing the same movie a couple years after it opened to keep the capacity flowing, especially for the people that are willing to see the film. Here's something that's really insane. During the rest of the days of Shrek 4D in Florida, they had this strict policy where if you stand up during the film, they would have to restart the movie. And from what I heard is that they actually warn you about it. I actually learned about this from a podcast that I actually listened to, and also one of the POVs that I actually looked into. It's like, oh wow, I guess they're right. I mean, they're not really joking about that warning. I mean, that's insane because they're treating this like a ride, especially with the seats moving throughout the film. And I guess it's like that because, you know, it's a theme park attraction. But also in the Florida version, I also don't know about the Japan, Singapore, Germany, and Australian versions. As you exit the theater and deposit your glasses into the bins, you would enter a gift shop called Shrek's Yule Shop or whatever it was called. Like I said before, it used to be not iconic, as I would say, but kind of a staple for the Universal Studios theme parks. It used to be at Universal Studios Florida, which just closed this year, unfortunately. It used to be Universal Studios Hollywood, which actually closed 5 years ago to make way for the DreamWorks Theater. They have it at Universal Studios Japan and Universal Studios Singapore. They used to have it at Movie Park Germany, which has been replaced by other 4D movies in their Roxy Theater, and it also used to be at the Warner Brothers Movie World, which had also closed, and it's been replaced by other movies in the Roxy Theater. So yeah, it's been a really crazy ride for the attraction, surviving almost 2 decades with all kinds of experiences and memories being made, and it literally came out when I was almost 3. Now, I know a lot of you guys out there have experienced it in 4D, and I'm really glad that you did here in America, or if you live in Asia. But I do know a couple of friends of mine that actually went on it. In fact, I know one of my coworkers from Kings Island last year, she actually experienced it several years ago when she went to Universal Studios Florida. And I know one guy, you probably knew him as Ned Rockin' Boom, but when he went to Hollywood, he tried to go experience Shrek 4D, but unfortunately the line was so long that they had to skip it. Overall, what I do want to say is that I thought that the movie had a lot of moments. I mean, it wasn't the best attraction, but it was kind of a good short movie. I mean, yes, it is short, but again, it had some moments. The 3D graphics are great. The storyline is really interesting to follow. The characters are likable, like they are in the franchise, especially Shrek, Donkey, Fiona. And I bet that the effects really did something to a lot of audiences, especially the ending music that they have had in the attraction. Like I'm a Believer in the Hollywood version and Sugar Sugar in the Florida version. And that's why I give Shrek 4D 3.5 out of 5. Well, let's just say that I decided to give this rank because after all the reviews that I've heard about and what I've been learning about from other people regarding their experiences of experiencing Shrek 4D, but at the same time, I think it's a lot of fun to watch. But mainly as a 3D movie and a regular movie, like when you watch it at home, I mean, that's just something that a lot of people do nowadays. But that movie is really fun, and I really want to show that to my kids. But what's unfortunate is that kids today will probably never understand what it's like experiencing it in person. That gem will always be in our hearts. But if you haven't seen the movie yet, I highly recommend watching it on DVD as a 3D version, or you can watch it in 2D, whatever it is. You can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on Netflix, but it's in 2D and it's called The Ghost of Lord Farquaad. And if you live in Asia or if you want to travel to Asia, you can go experience it at Universal Studios Japan or Singapore. They still have Shrek 4D there. Alright, so that was my review on Shrek 4D, aka The Ghost of Lord Farquaad. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode of 4D Madness coming your way. Until then, this is me, Byron, signing off. Peace out. It's finally ogre.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Sincerely, Dr. Schwarzenberg.